Hello, everyone. Um, Welcome to the community. Um, my name is Michael, and I'm from Germany. But some people in international conferences tell to me, Michael. So whatever you like. Um, I'm going to share my uh, screen with you now. And today I'm talking about the tech setup, optimizing first-party tracking on virtual servers in the context of Matomo. And it's hard to sort it in the right track. I think it's something between IT, tech, and infrastructure. So today we have 30 minutes. I have a lot of slides prepared with some case studies or use cases where I can show you more practical things because it's very technical, but I try really to serve the audience between beginners, intermediate, and advanced users. And I have also some challenges, which I'm going to share with the community in terms of real first party tracking, which I yet did not solve. And maybe with the power of the community, we can solve it together. So what is the agenda for today? The first thing, maybe some sentences about me. I'm more than 15 years as a professional in this industry, worked in several digital startups, global ed tech, and in a German media company called Pro7 which have been acquired now by the Mediasat from Italy. But in the last 4 years, I worked for a Swiss-based company called FuseTech. It's a Swiss tech manager and cookieless analytics software. But prior to that, as a student, I started my first website in the year 99 and made my first money in the year 2001, more than 20 years ago. And this was so inspiring that I stayed in this industry. And of course, when you are making money with websites, and it's very interesting to see what's going on your website in terms of sessions, page views, and of course, conversions when you are running affiliate business. Today, I'm helping teams to turn data into measurable business impact. So on the commercial side, but as well, very hands-on on the technical side when it comes to programming, setting up JavaScript snippets to push it to data layers and stuff like this. So what we are going to talk about today. So why is first-party tracking important, especially with Matomo? I think since GDPR in 2018, everyone is talking about first-party and about the dying of third-party cookies. I think it's very boring to talk about it, but what is really first-party tracking? In the second topic, we are going to discuss on-premise versus cloud in terms of Matomo, because here I'm focusing the on-premise installation of Matomo, but what are the advantages regarding Matomo Cloud and in which cases I should choose the Matomo Cloud. But when it comes in topic 3 to on-premise strategy, what should I take into consideration when I'm building my on-premise Matomo setup? Then, of course, we are going to grow and to scale our shops, websites, and brands. So what I should take care of in terms of scaling my Matomo setup, and what are the first steps in the first party tracking when I'm setting up. So really, if I want to start today with my website and implement Matomo on my server, what are the first steps we are going to discuss? And in the step number 6, there are, of course, some tech setup when it comes to setting up web servers, PHP and MariaDB or MySQL, because this is the base of Matomo to run on. We are going to discuss as well. But it's not just about installing some software on your Linux server. It's also about optimizing tracking and the data quality you are receiving. And last but not least, performance tuning and questions and answers. I hope we'll have some time for that. So let's start. Why first-party tracking with Matomo matters now? So of course, we have the general data protection rules and the privacy for more than 20 years, which are telling us to control and to regulate the setting and the reading of cookies. And everywhere, the strict consent and data minimization expectations are coming. And I think in this month or last month, there was also a ruling again against Google Tag Manager saying you are not allowed to fire your Google Tag Manager before consent, even there is no Google Analytics or cookie set, you are not allowed. So the ruling is more and more against tracking and analytics. So this is a big reason why first-party tracking matters. And especially when you are using third-party vendors, it means often when you talk to legals that you are in a gray zone, and often very dependent on US vendors. And when we are looking at the politics in the US, it's very uncertain what is going to happen in the future. Will be Google Analytics, for example, legal in the future, or again illegal like it was like 3 years ago when everyone thought about, okay, what should I do to become legal with my setup? And when we are talking about the first party, self-hosted stack, it's everything in your full control in terms of hosting, the tagging on your website, and the data flows. So it's under your control, but you also gain a big responsibility about this. And when it comes to first party, it means it's your domain. So let's say you have myshop.com, then it's not Matomo.cloud in the background collecting your data, and even not Google Analytics.com. It's still your own domain on your servers, ideally on your IP, which creates trust in your audience. And this is the goal in this topic here. So here's an example, a big German news website called Bild.de. So if you can see, as you can see here in the network request in the screenshot, it's not only Bild.de delivering content, delivering advertising. You have also some third parties like Bing.com for Microsoft, Outbrain.com for native advertising. So this is, when I'm looking at this, not building trust. And also when it comes to GDPR, e-privacy and stuff, there was also a lot of space to discuss this. What will happen to this tomorrow in 1 year? Is this a risk? And who is collecting my data against me in this case, maybe? So this is the reason why first-party tracking should be more in focus, to have from top to down just your domain, in this example, Bild.de. So let's deep dive more into the cases Matomo, because all the legal stuff, GDPR, is very boring. It's more interesting to talk about Matomo. Why should I choose on-premise, or should I maybe choose Matomo Cloud? So let's differentiate. When you choose Matomo Cloud, it's fully managed. All plugins are included, and it scales at almost all sites. So it doesn't matter if you have your small website with your pictures from your last camping vacations, or if you are building the next Amazon killer online shop. Really don't need to care about if you have just 10 hits per day or 1 million hits per day. Matomo Cloud does it for you, and everything is managed. Also, when it comes to some very important security updates, you don't need to care. It's all included. So it's good if traffic and costs are predictable, and your development operations resources are limited. So you don't have IT guys covering your server, running updates and stuff like this. But custom tracking domains usually need enterprise plan. So if you choose the business plan, saying, okay, I have like 10 million hits per month, this costs me, let's say, 200 euros per month, you will not get your own, let's say, ethical tracking.myshop.com. It's still the third-party domain matomo.cloud. But if you want to have also this covered, you need to choose the enterprise plan from Matomo Cloud. And then on the other hand, and let's discuss the on-premise solution. So you have full control over your tracking domain. You can say, is it tracking.myshop.com? Or maybe it's the root domain, like www.myshop.com/collect or something like this, which makes it more first party, or it looks more like first party. You have the control about your JavaScript and all the requests to the database. Usually when you choose Matomo Cloud and you want to get an export from your database, you need to reach out to the support. But when you are running on-premise, you are controlling your MySQL or MariaDB database, so you can export every minute if you are fancy to do this, and also set up your own data scientist to have a look at your database and data flows. But of course, if you look at the API, it's both the same. So maybe also be more easy for you to run the Matomo API, and then it's the same regarding cloud and on-premise. One very important point to mention here is that when you run on-premise, not all plugins are included. So if you, for example, want to have the custom reports plugin, which is included in the Matomo Cloud, you need to pay it when you are running on-premise. This is very important when you run your calculation to make a decision. Here also a use case example. At the top of the left, you can see when you have, for example, 50K hits per month, it costs you 22 euros per month. And if you choose the annually billing, then I think it's 20, something like this per month. So really cheap. I wouldn't say cheap, but it's very attractive in terms of costs. So if you don't want to set up your own server and to build your knowledge in terms of Linux, PHP, and MySQL, just start with the Matomo Cloud and get familiar when you are very at the beginning in terms of Matomo. But when you choose Matomo Cloud, as I mentioned, you can see at the right side, in this example, it's rapidmail.de, a newsletter software provider. They are using Matomo Cloud, and you can see I'm on rapidmail.de. But checking the network request, you can see that it's matomo.cloud in the network request. So it's not hidden. In this case, this customer should reach out to the Matomo Cloud support and saying, hey, what's the cost for enterprise plans? I need to hide this domain, for example, a.rapidmail.de. So after we discussed that, and that being said, what should be the strategy when we choose the on-premise strategy to set up our Matomo tracking? On the first hand, the scaling strategy, we should decide the type of server. We should decide between shared web hosting, virtual servers, and guaranteed virtual servers. Because when you have like a web hosting, all is included. You have like a domain, you have web space, and you have some apps like PHP, Python, and MySQL. And if there are some updates needed, the hosting company will do it for you. But all the resources in the classic web hosting are shared. So if there is one web hosting running with 100 Matomo instances, then it will be very slow. And you are also very limited in terms of setup. So you cannot set up some proxy or first-party domains. So I would recommend to choose shared hosting. More interesting is the virtual private server, which you can choose ideally as guaranteed, so that the hosting company tells you, okay, you will get 8 GB of RAM for sure. And you get some 2 virtual dedicated cores of the CPU. And this is very important to have a very stable performance of your Matomo instance. And then the other question we need to discuss is, should I choose a managed service or full root? In terms of managed service, you pay a high fee to the hosting company so that they run the updates for you in terms of upgrading the operating system, upgrading PHP if there are some security issues in the future. But if you choose no, I will do it on my own, then you also get a very high responsibility to make your server safe, because what we do not want is to get the next bot live, right? So if you don't care about security of your server, then it will be hacked and it will become a bot attacking other websites. And this is what we really need to avoid and to stay safe with our servers. For very big guys, it's the dedicated server. So it's really a machine in the computing center. But I wouldn't recommend this, because when one machine fails, it takes hours for the servers to repair the machine. So go with VPS guaranteed. When it comes to hosting, which company should I choose? So as I'm located in Germany, I'm looking at the German providers. I prefer Netcap. It's a very nice company, but not that big as Hetzner, for example, also very good. And Ionos is also one of the top 3 vendors. When you are, of course, maybe from France or from Spain, Italy, you should look maybe at other providers. It's O4H from France, Aruba from Italy, or LeaseWeb from Netherlands. They also give you some nice plans to run your on-premise instance. And please check the pricing, because you get guaranteed CPU and RAM and storage, but what regarding the traffic costs? This, at some vendors, you need to pay extra if you, for example, get more than 1 GB traffic on your Matomo instance per month, then it may become very expensive. And in this case, as we discussed, we want to stay safe for the next decade, then the strategy is to avoid US or non-EU cloud providers like AWS, Google Cloud Platform, Azure, DigitalOcean. I mean, these are great services for scaling and nice features, but this is not our main goal. Our main goal is first-party tracking in a local provider, local data, local computing center. One example from NetCap, for example, when you choose two cores here at the left, which are guaranteed to get 2 gigabytes and 64 GB storage, this is something which is totally enough to start with your on-prem Matomo instance. And you can see that you can start with €4 per month running the server. And on the right-hand side, you can see a screenshot of the user interface where you can control the traffic. Am I enough with 2 cores and 2 gigabytes, or should I upgrade to stay online with my on-prem instance? Then it comes, okay, I'm super successful with my website and I want to scale also with my Matomo setup. What should we take into consideration here? So the plan I would take into consideration is to plan for the next 3 years. And the Matomo world is always to check the hits. One hit can be, for example, a page view or an event, like clicking the FAQ button, executing downloads, etc. So please check what is the expectation in terms of hits. And then in the future, at the beginning, let's start with the beginning. You take one server where everything is running. So you have the login area of Matomo. You have the PHP in the background. On the same machine is the MySQL database running. So this is the very easy start. But in the future, maybe you have the user interface on one server and the database on another. So please check if this is a future case in the next 3 years, because we want to avoid disruptive migrations and downtime. Let's say you start today with one server with all the apps in it, and in 1 week you decide to split off the database. This might be very dangerous, because then it's probably you get downtimes, and this is what you want to avoid. So then please start to separate it from the very beginning. You have one app server and one database on the other hand, and you are good to go. For example, if you have 1 million hits per month, then the Matomo documentation recommends one server for the app, and for the database is fine. You choose 4 CPUs, 8 GB RAM, and 250 GB, and then you're good to go. And let me show one example. This is the page, matomo.org/FAQ requirements. Here you can see also if you are expecting 10 million page views, then you should really dedicate the servers between app and database. I always recommend these documentation and FAQs from Matomo.org, because it's very helpful to get a picture what decision should I choose in terms of my requirements. So topic 5, let's start with the first step to first-party tracking. So one example, we choose the plan with 1 million hits as a target size. And when we stay at the hosting company NetCap in Germany, then it costs you €7 per month. But as I said, everything is in your responsibility. If you choose the same traffic volume at the Matomo cloud, then it costs you €172 per month. But as I said, everything is included. No updates, no scaling, headaches, everything is included. So please take it into consideration, because the range looks huge, 7 versus 170. But as I said, responsibility comes with on-premise. So once you have your VPS online, you get the public IP, for example, 100.123, or a technical host, which is already in CNAME, like the 156 and so on, server.com. This is what you take to your domain. It's the domain name server. And let's say it's based on myshop.com. This is your shop, which you want to run with first-party tracking. Then you set up a subdomain called ethical.myshop.com. And there you set up a record to the domain IP, or to the IP, which has been assigned from your hosting provider. Once this is done, sometimes it takes 20 hours, sometimes 70 hours to get it to the global name servers, so that it your ethical myshop.com will be accessible from the World Wide Web, right? And then you can start with installation of Matomo, enable SSL, and point to your tracking. And here's the first step you succeeded. So it's not anymore myshop.matomo.cloud. So here we have the real first party tracking step completed. It's ethicalmyshop.com/matomojs with your IP address, and behind that, your server under your control. Here's an example. For example, onemakler.net, it's a housing, let's say you're looking for a flat on apartment. This is a site you can find nice apartments in your city. And they have already in first party tracking. So you see, I'm surfing on onemakler.net and checking the network request. I can see that the Matomo tracking is also under the control of the top domain. When it comes to topic 6, what are the tech setup basics? And now it becomes very advanced. Sorry for that. But as I said, I want to serve the audience at the very beginning, understanding why it's important to have first party tracking in terms of GDPR and e-privacy. And on the other hand, all the regulations we had in the last years regarding against US, against Google, against all the big tech players. And also I want to serve the advanced users when it comes to the tech setup basics. So what are the basics? When you have a server with 4 cores and RAM and you decided to go with Netcap, for example, I always recommend to use the operating system Ubuntu because it's more comfortable than Debian. Debian is also a Linux software distribution. It's more clean, more minimal, but it takes you more efforts to install like PHP, MySQL, or MariaDB. You need to check in the web, okay, what is the last version and pull the repository. So recommendation is start with Ubuntu and immediately run updates to this because you don't want to get this server hacked after 5 minutes because it's outdated, and enable please automatic security updates. Once this is done, you're still not safe. Please run the basic hardening. You need to enable the firewall so that just the UI is accessible, matomo.js and matomo.php and nothing else. You should, for example, avoid that from the public internet, your configuration file from Matomo is accessible. This would be the worst case, right? And also it's important to install say to ban. So if someone is trying to log into your server and fails 3 times, the IP will be blocked. Very important basics. Never use the root admin user. Always create your user, like for example, Michael or Michael, and avoid to use passwords. Always use SSH, public and private keys. And when it comes to the stack, it's super easy to start with Nginx, web server, PHP, FPM is running pretty well with the latest version 8.4. I think is the supported version by Matomo, and MariaDB is nice as a database. And of course, you want to have the HTTPS encryption. I recommend to go with Let's Encrypt because it's free, but you need to make sure that you have an automatic renewal after 90 days because the certificate is not that long valid, like 1 year, for example. You need to renew every 90 days. Here's an example of the code. I'm happy to share it with you afterwards. So if you have your server installed and you log in, you have on the left side all the updates. You have the fail to ban firewall. You have the keys you install. Please also change the SSH port from 22 to example 2213. You have the firewall settings, and then when it comes to the right hand, you have the web server installation, database installation, and PHP. And at the bottom, some optimizations. For example, you need to increase the memory limit to 512, for example, because when you are running very big API requests against the Matomo API, for example, give me the last 90 days, which came from dimension 1 and have conversion goal 0, then you maybe need 500 megabytes of RAM to get results. And another thing, optimizing the tracking and data quality. So you saw, what does it mean for me that I have my first party domain, but I can still see that the tracker is coming from Matomo.javascript and sending all the data to Matomo.php. So this is the big advantage of virtual servers, or at all when you are under full control of your server, that you can obfuscate the data. So you can change Matomo.php to madata / for example. You can change almost everything to avoid ad blockers to block your requests, your tracking requests. And if you already use a CDN, you can also use the proxy path so that you can set the requests to /connect ABC and not to Matomo PHP anymore. But please make sure that you are not caching Matomo PHP because every request is almost unique. Alternative, if you're using PHP, you can write a proxy script. You just type it into ChatGPT and you get like a 20 lines code showing you how you can bypass your tracking requests. Still a challenge is that the first party cookies are set via JavaScript. That means that we cannot use HTTP only to avoid other trackers on my side and other JavaScripts to read it. I saw on GitHub that it's still not solved because I think it's a bigger thing. But when it comes to my personal Christmas wish list, this would be top prior on roadmap to have the real server-side HTTP only cookie. Because, for example, the SGTM, server-side Google Tag Manager hosting vendor called State, they are offering it already, as you can see in this screenshot here. So at the left side, at the bottom, you see the FPID cookie. It's set from the SGTM, and it's a real HTTP only cookie set by the server and not possible to read it with JavaScript. This is the example from better.com. And when you look at the top right side, you see a Pivot installation. It's an on-premise on weimar.de, setting the Pivot, the old Pivot cookie. It's not Pivot anymore, it's Matomo. And as it was set by Matomo.js, it's not possible, from my knowledge, to set HTTP cookies. So if you have a workaround for this or solution, please let me know, because this is a challenge for me, state of now. And topic 8, performance tuning. You can see it also in the FAQ or Matomo documentation. When you are scaling your traffic, then sometimes you may run into server errors because PHP is not able to collect all the tracking requests in an unlimited case. So please use PHP Redis to offload to the DB. So for example, the server is collecting 25 hits and then sending it to Matomo in a bulk upload. Disable browser-based archiving, run hourly core jobs. You can tune the memory limit, as I said. Never use swap usage on your server. Please upgrade your RAM as possible. Daily app backups are a no-brainer, I think, but also try to restore your backups, because in the worst case, you will see that you have a lot of backups, but they are corrupt. And use, for example, the open source monitoring service Uptime Kuma to see if your server is up and running. Some examples in the screenshots here. On the top left side, you can see Proxmox. It's a server virtualization if you have a network attached system at home. It's showing you that you can collect 25 hits, for example, before sending to the database. And at the bottom right, you can see the offload of the archiving process, right? So this ideally you set up as a cron job every hour so that your user interface stays very fast and performing. That's pretty much it, I think. It was a lot, I know. Are there any questions? Then please drop, or Ronan, share the questions with me. I'm not sure if I can see them. But for sure, I will share these slides afterwards. And if you have any questions, please drop me a message, ideally via LinkedIn.
Thank you, Michael. Those are mostly remarks, but I just one tiny question for you. Is Google Tag Manager legal in Germany? I mean, have you heard any information about the use of Google Tag Manager in Germany, or let's say Tag Manager in general in Germany?
Yes. So from the community and all the tracking experts, the recommendation was always, please fire Google Tag Manager only after consent, no matter if it's client side or server side or on your server or on your domain, no matter what, always after consent. This was always the recommendation from the German community. And I think last month there was a ruling from the court in Hanover, so North Germany, I think, was the regulation, where they said, no, it's not legal to fire a Google Tag Manager before consent. So yeah, the recommendation is still, if you are using Google Tag Manager, only fire after consent. That means that you have maybe just 50% of your analytics data.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. I'm currently looking at so there are really useful feedback and information which is shared in the chats on YouTube, but nothing very specific. I just would like to say thank you, Michael, because your feedback your conference will be very valuable as feedback for the Matomo team. I really personally enjoyed what you showed us when it comes to, let's say, explaining to the audience what are the differences between the cloud and on-prem and why going for one rather than the others. And I think that that's super important because it's as well drawing a line of different things and approach that we need to have. We have to keep in mind as well that at Matomo, as we are let's say, the maintainer and the creator of Matomo, we may be the good people in order to tune the Matomo infrastructure when it comes to cloud hosting, because regarding the other web hosting provider, let's say you mentioned Manis, the thing is that it will rely on the partner expertise rather than the web hosting company. As the partner program manager, we currently do not have any huge web hosting companies specialized in Matomo at the moment. So when you come to a big player, my piece of advice will be to work with a partner or either with the Matomo team in order to configure and scale it up, because I haven't yet heard about any big web hosting provider having a full Matomo services next to their offer. So that's just a personal opinion here. Thank you, Michael. Hope you enjoy MatomoCamp. Thank you for contributing to Matomo and looking forward to the next edition.
Thank you, Ronan, as well. Thank you, MatomoCamp community. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye.